a
We gon' run it, hit the field, blast off, watch them all fall. This is AFC North talk. Got me hype, it's about to be a touchdown. Got the Ravens, Steelers, Bengals, and the Browns. Are you listening? It's time to get it hype. Tune in when the season poppin'. Yeah, we going live. Ay, knock 'em out. Ay, first down, going hard. Yes, indeed. AFC North talk. Let's go. Ay, AFC North talk.
Welcome to another edition AFC North Talks. Should be a fun episode. We have an AFC North matchup this week. Should be a good one. So let's get it started right away. Steelers are playing the Jets. The Jets with a new part in Davante Adams. The Steelers also with a new part. Well, it's been in the team for a minute, but in the first start in Russell, I saw that Pickens is doing extra time with Russell, right? Doing extra practice. He said this is his first start, trying to get it acclimated. Jared, this is desperation, I think, for the Jets. The Jets cannot lose too many, right? Obviously, the Steelers could. They don't want to if they want to win the division, but a loss doesn't kill them for playoff hope. But what is your expectation for this game and Russell Wilson?
No, the Steelers are going to lose. That's my expectation. That's my very clear-cut
out of that gate.
Right, yeah,
no.
As soon as this stuff started this week, man, I was like, yeah, they're gonna lose. Like, there's so much distraction, making a quarterback change that you don't need to make. And Ryan Clark talked about it today on ESPN. He was just like, it's the wrong decision, and it also feels like Justin Fields never had a chance to actually win the job, which is stupid. So I think that making a decision to put Fields on the bench is dumb, and I've said it throughout the week. I was like, Russell Wilson nothing that he does to me is going to exhibit that he's a better quarterback right now than Justin Fields. I think that they were playing really well with Fields in the offense. Albert Breer was talking on the Rich Eisen show, and he said a lot of people in the organization just want to stick with Fields. So I also come back to, I'm sure that when Russ was signed, there were promises made to him that he would be the starter, but it was when Kenny Pickett was still on the roster, Justin Fields was not. And I just personally don't care about promises that were made in March. It's October now, and you're 4-2, could very well be 6-0. The Jets add Davante Adams. There's a level of desperation there. There's a good defense that they're going to be going up against. The Steelers won't have Zach Frazier in the lineup, so they're going to be going backup center Ryan McCollum. So you got a backup center. You got a rookie right guard, which albeit Mason McCormick's played pretty well so far, and I'm happy to see that his development seems to be going right on track. Broderick Jones at right tackle. Godspeed to Russell Wilson, is going to have to escape a few sacks. I just don't think he's going to be able to. We've seen Justin Fields turn those possible sacks into first downs with his legs. Don't think Russell Wilson's going to be doing the same. Dan Moore at left tackle has actually been pretty solid so far this year, and Isaac Small at left guard came back. So offensive line, like, I'm just worried that when the play does break down, is Russell Wilson going to be able to do the same things that Justin Fields did? And my immediate thought is no. And a lot of people are like, oh, he's going to give them better production in the passing game. Man, I've seen Russell Wilson over the past 2 years, and we talked about it on Wednesday's show. It was just like, there's a lot of, quick checkdowns that don't go very far. And it's also like the Steelers don't have, it's George Pickens, and then it's Van Jefferson, and maybe you'll get something from Calvin Austin. And then
he hates Muth.
We'll see what happens with Pat Freiermuth. Pat Freiermuth had, a solid couple weeks. Didn't really do all that much against Vegas. But had a touchdown against the Colts, had one against Dallas. So we shall see how much Muth gets utilized. My whole thing is that whatever. This isn't to say that Justin Fields has played perfect. Watching the All-22 back, he missed some throws, and watching the game live against Vegas, you're like, okay, he's missing a couple throws here, but Russell Wilson isn't so much better of a passer that it makes him a better option than Justin Fields because his legs have become such a big part of the offense. So again, the decision makes no sense. I think that this is going to be somewhat of a 2-week trial period almost where, okay, they have Jets and Giants in back-to-back weeks and they have their bye week. In the bye week, I would assume that they'll figure out who their starter is. If I had to guess now, they'll play Russ these 2 games. The offense probably won't look all that great. They'll go back to Fields ahead of the Commanders game. And that's kind of what I'm expecting. But for the immediate future, I think the Jets win on Sunday night. An Aaron Rodgers-led team. It's not the 4-time MVP Aaron Rodgers from Green Bay, but bringing in Davante Adams, that chemistry, isn't something that needs retaught. So you got to worry about Davante Adams. You got to worry about Garrett Wilson. The Jets' run game hasn't been very good this year, so that is one thing that will benefit the Steelers' defense. But I do think that the Jets will win a relatively low-scoring game. We'll say somewhere in the lights of like 20-13, 23-13, something like that. I'm really down on the whole Russell Wilson thing, man. If he makes me eat crow, I will happily come on this show and say, wow, Russell Wilson played really well, and that surprised me. I just don't expect that to happen. So I think the Jets are going to win, and I'm going to come on this show next week saying I told you so because the quarterback change shouldn't have ever been made.
Last time that you were feeling like that was the game against the Cowboys, maybe?
The Colts. I
picked
them to beat the Colts like begrudgingly. I was like, all right, I'm still going to pick them because they should win, but I don't think that they're actually gonna. And then they, went down 17-0 early, almost came back. But yeah, I have a strong feeling that they'll be 4-3 by the week's end.
Hey, so you think if I'm watching this game, the O-line is you hit on the spot, Jared. The O-line worries me. The backup center, we'll see. McCormick played better. I agree with you. Still, the tackle's still an issue, even though you guys drafted him 2 years ago, early in the draft. He still hasn't clicked. And Broderick Jones, right? And the Jets defense, although the defense hasn't been what everybody thought the defense was, they still have a lot of talent. And on offense, look, I don't know, Ace. Do you think Rodgers coming ready to cook the Steelers defense?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's going to cook the Steelers defense, right? Because the Steelers have a great defense, but I do think like Quentin Williams is going to cook whoever that backup is that's in for Zach Frazier. I mean, this is a Jets team right now that's 5th on the road in defensive sack percentage. So they do get sacks, and that's something that's confusing too. This is a good defense. Like, I don't know why they're putting Russell Wilson out against the NFL defense that on the road is the 6th red zone scoring. They allow the least amount of points in the red zone. Just in scoring in general, they just allow the 6th least in the NFL. You talk about the pass defense is 7th. I just don't understand it. Like, the Jets are clearly in desperation mode, right? They fired their coach. They went out and they traded for Davante Adams. They know that they have to win at this point. Pittsburgh, even though like they're tied with the Ravens right now, or the Ravens have the lead in the division, they're taking this huge, stupid gamble on Russell Wilson at this point. And like, even if Russell Wilson is okay, he doesn't have chemistry with these other guys. So like inserting him into an offense where the offensive line is used to blocking for Justin Fields, the wide receivers are used to catching balls from Justin Fields. Now you just insert Russell Wilson out of nowhere. And clearly people on the team do not like the decision because they're taking to their social medias and saying it. And you decide to do this now? Like, the only thing that gives me solace that the Pittsburgh Steelers will be in this game is their defense, is Aaron Rodgers and that offensive line. I do think Aaron Rodgers is definitely past his prime. I don't think people want to admit it because we like Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers, from what I've seen this year, looks kind of washed. I'm not going to lie. Like, he kind of looks washed right now. So
debatable if we like him, but yeah, I get your point there.
doesn't look like Rodgers. Like, I mean, And so that's the only reason I think that the Steelers can be in this game is the defense. But I think that they're making a huge mistake offensively. Then you talk about Sauce being matched up against Pickens. So like, and you're talking about Russ doesn't like to throw over the middle. Like, I don't know what the plan is here. And then you talk about the run defense. Maybe they trust Najee Harris to be the guy, but like at this point, dog, I don't think it's smart for the Steelers to do this. I mean, I think Tomlin, like, if they do win it, people are going to come back and be like, you guys had no faith. I don't see how you can have faith going into this matchup the way that it is. So I respect Jared for just keeping it a buck, bro. Like, I don't like with Russell Wilson in, I can't see this. Like, if you throw Justin Fields in this, I'm like, yeah, I think the Steelers easily could win this game, but Russell Wilson, dog, that's what we're doing.
And it's not an easy game to win regardless of who's at quarterback. I think they have a much better shot at doing it with Justin Fields, especially because the Jets are 20th in the league in rush EPA. You don't think having a mobile quarterback who can run would help against a bad rush defense? And again, so many of these things right now just don't make sense in terms of what they're doing. There's going to be Steelers fans that might watch this and be like, oh, you know, hating on the team. No, bro, I can be a fan, but also be realistic. I'm not going to pick them to go.
That you guys have had, I feel like they're going to come from Justin Fields. Like, most of them have been from him, and then you're taking him out. So there's those 20-yard scrambles are now going when you're talking about Russell Wilson being there. So I just don't. And then the offensive line issues, I just don't get it.
We can be fans and also be realistic. You know, I'm not going to sit up here and say they're going to win every game because they're not going to win every game. And this is a game that I think that they're definitely going to lose. And again, when you look at the Jets defense right now, they are also right now, I had it and it went away. They are 6th in the league in EPA per dropback defensively. That's not going to bode well for a team that doesn't have very many good receivers. And like you pointed out, Ace, a quarterback that doesn't really dig throwing the ball over the middle. Again, a lot of it, the timing of it and just doing it in general doesn't make sense. If their record was 2-4 and you wanted to do it, totally get it. Okay. You're 2-4.
They might not be working, but like you're literally in the thick of competing.
You are like, tied for the lead in the division right now. And if you win this game and the Ravens lose on Monday night, which is, it's possible that, Pittsburgh wins and Baltimore loses, then you're winning the division. And just to say now, be like, actually, we're going to pull Justin Fields. Yeah.
Let's hit the Russell Wilson button against the number one total defense on the road. Let's do that. Let's throw Russell to the best defense in the league. I
just don't get it, man. I don't get it. And like I said, I've been pretty open about my thoughts about it all week. And I hope that Russell Wilson proves me wrong. I just don't think that he's going to. And at this point, when you have a 25-year-old quarterback that's playing pretty well, taking him out for a soon-to-be 36-year-old quarterback who isn't the future of this team just doesn't make sense, man. Does not make sense.
Q? Win the 7th.
Any guys know about this place called the Steelers Depot? Right. I do. Yes. Yeah. See, they aggregated me over something I said about Russell Wilson, which is Russell Wilson comes with some baggage. And it's not baggage that you can easily walk away from. It's not the same level of off the field baggage that Deshaun Watson has, but that is still Russell Wilson, right? When you bring in a quarterback with a big name like that, it's why it was not a thing. The Browns were like, oh yeah, we're just going to bring Joe Flacco back to be the backup when he's like a Super Bowl champion and has that esteem. These dudes who have accomplished stuff as starters, no matter how mid they're playing, they come with their baggage. And look, I knew this situation could possibly be cooked when I was lessoning on Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys, and they have the sideline interview talking about Russell Wilson. I'm like, why are they talking about Russell Wilson? And then Russell Wilson drops this one. Yeah, I have a new catchphrase. Win the 7th. Now, think about that. Does a backup quarterback have a catchphrase? Does somebody develop a catchphrase if they are convinced they are going to sit the bench for most of the season? Is a backup? Does somebody who thinks they're not going to? Does somebody decide I'm going to take an extra week to make sure I'm extra healthy? Does somebody do that if they are not secure in the fact that, one, this is their job, and two, they are going to keep that job? Like, Russ ain't even acting like somebody who's competing. I don't even know if this is a 2-week trial. This just might be the dude y'all roll with for the rest of the season through thick or thin, because like it only makes sense if you think about it that way. If we try to think about like, oh, they're going to put Justin Fields out there back at some point, it's like, well, why would they do this way and that? And it's like, it only makes sense if they're like, hey, win the 7th, they're about to put Russ in there for the rest of the season, or as long as they can possibly stomach putting Russell Wilson out there. Now, why does that happen? Because the baggage of Russell Wilson, right? If this were if this were Gardner Minshew, if this were some quarterback with no clout, no Tyler Heineke, you know what I mean? Like there's one of these dudes who just plays Jameis Winston, Jacoby Brissett, name your guy. You know, that could produce about a similar level, but like they're just a guy, right, on a roster. This doesn't happen. You just play Justin Fields. It's the baggage of Russ that brings you to here, and that brings you to the point to where you got to consider playing him for whatever reason, when Justin Fields has not been a disaster, has been a quarterback that has put you in first place in the division. It's like, what could he have done? I heard him talk in an interview, well, I just didn't play good enough. And I hate what this does to this young player, because he played as good as you could have expected him to play, right? Like within a reasonable realm of expectation, he was in the higher end of that, right? He wasn't top end. It wasn't, oh, Justin Fields is hit on his draft hype kind of thing, but this was at the top end of what you could expect from him. And you're basically telling him that's not good enough. Watch Russell Wilson play in 2024. What does that do to somebody's like will to want to do better? Right? If they put in the work, they do what they have to, they get the wins, they do everything that Mike Tomlin preaches you got to do, right? Win the games, be attentive, work hard, and then you do it, and they put this dude out who's on an elliptical and wearing a fucking uniform on the sideline for 3 weeks while he was injured. This is the guy that they put in over you. Captain Goofball is the dude that they put in with you, because they don't look at him like Captain Goofball. They still think that's Russ. They like it. He is basically.
And there's a lot of Steelers fans that still think that that's Russ. So they bring it out. He's won a Super Bowl, bro. He won that Super Bowl like a few months after Obama beat Romney. Like,
yeah, and you know what? If you get Russ from like 2019 and you plug him in, obviously, yeah, that would be better than what Justin Fields is playing right now. But we know for a fact that's not who Russ is anymore. But in their mind, they're like, well, Denver was a bad organization, right? And Denver didn't put them in the right position to succeed. It's not like they traded a first-round pick for a coach just to prop him up. By the way, hey, Denver, you're welcome. From Cleveland, you're welcome that people don't talk about that disaster show anymore, right? The fact that you traded for Sean Payton, gave up a first-round pick, and then added that on top of Russell Wilson, and that didn't make it past the year. You only thought Sean Payton would work because Russell Wilson was short. Like just amazing decision making there from Denver that gets to get swept under the rug because the Browns made a more morally dubious mistake here. So, anyways, back to the Russ thing. This is the baggage I talk about with Russ, right? Like this does not happen with a quarterback that doesn't have a name. This only happens with a quarterback that people can talk themselves into being a franchise guy. I think in the Steelers' mind, they want to play him because they think there's a world where he's going to have this Kirk Cousins like comeback. He's going to throw for 500 yards, and you're going to have your guy for the next 2 years. You can develop somebody under the radar and kind of roll them in the run. I really think that's what they think the outcome here is. And I don't see how they can see that for Russ, but not see it for Justin Fields. And the only conclusion I can come to is they're not looking for it from Justin Fields. They don't care if it's they want it to be Russ. And that feels like a Tomlin thing, right? Like that, the wanting the older quarterback, the veteran quarterback, that 100% feels like a Tomlin thing there. But this is what I talked about, Steelers fans. This is the baggage of Russell Wilson. I wonder if Steelers Depot would choose to aggregate this clip and call me a dumbass like they did a few months ago during the offseason and said I didn't know what I was talking about because Deshaun Watson plays quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, and I don't know about baggage. I can't talk about any other team's baggage. Well, I said you'll probably feel that baggage about in October. Hey, what month is it, Jared? Is it October?
Mid-October.
Yeah. And
clip this.
The biggest thing for me too when it comes to this is if this costs them, like I don't think Russ is going to be a Steeler next year. Unless he has like you said some sort of insane resurrection where he just balls out and he looks like 2019 Russell Wilson. If that doesn't happen, which it very much likely will not, then if this costs them Justin Fields and he goes elsewhere and plays well, then, I mean, you got to really look at Mike Tomlin and be like, what the hell are you doing? Like, none of it makes sense. All of it's dumb. And if Justin Fields doesn't end the year as the starter and, like I said, goes somewhere else next year, plays really well, and then you're stuck with the carcass of Russell Wilson perhaps by bringing him back or having to look elsewhere for a quarterback again, then that no one is to blame for that other than Mike Tomlin.
There's a couple rough spots here because the game is in Pittsburgh. What happens if they start slow? Would the fans revolt against Wilson?
Doesn't matter.
They did with Kenny?
I would be incredibly surprised if Russell Wilson doesn't start and finish this game. I mean, unless he gets like hurt or anything, and knock on wood, we don't want that to happen. But no, he's finishing the game. I think the best case scenario for like the Fields thing would be like if the Jets and Giants are like a 2-game trial run for Russ. Be like, all right, show us something here. And if you play better than Justin Fields, then yeah, it's your job. But like if you struggle and like we have this 25-year-old sitting on the sideline over here who's played well, then we'd be dumb to not put him back in, especially when they come off the bye. They play the Commanders and they play Jaden Daniels. So like you got to have somebody that can go at least, come close to go toe-to-toe with that. And I believe that Justin Fields can do that a lot better than Russell Wilson can. So we'll see. We'll see. Again, I'll happily come on here and admit I was wrong if Russ plays well and they win, but I just don't think either of those are going to happen.
So a couple things, by the way, the polls out there and super chats are available. You guys have questions. Look, what I'm thinking about this game is this is two teams. They have question marks. This is two teams. If I look at what the Jets have done throughout the year, it's not like they've been impressive even in their wins. Everybody thinks that Davante Adams and the chemistry with Rodgers will be instantaneously. It could be. It might not. It might take a week or two.
Hold on, I got to put a correction out here. It was Steelers Nation, not Steelers Depot.
Okay.
Yes.
Steelers Depot.
My apologies, Steelers Depot. You have done nothing to me. It was Steelers Nation that did this to me.
So as I'm looking at this game, a guy that hasn't been looking like a guy that can move well is Aaron Rodgers. A guy that hasn't handled pressure well this year so far is Aaron Rodgers. Davante Adams is a big question mark because if Davante Adams comes here and cooks, the game is over. If Russell Wilson comes here throwing turnovers, the game is over. But one thing I will give Russell Wilson credit that he does not do, to the annoyance of a lot of people, is he doesn't throw turnovers or picks because he's overly conservative. I'm going to go here against the grain. I'm going to go.
You picking the Steelers?
I don't want to say it.
You're picking Russ?
I don't want to.
Come on, say it with your chest, Sonny. Say it with your chest.
I'm picking against the Jets. I'm believing in the Steelers defense. The Steelers defense. I think Russell Wilson will not do stupid shit. He will not throw turnovers.
Okay.
He will move the ball enough, and this is a game that is gonna be
fresh off an injury, Russell Wilson.
Yes, 18-17. Oh, Steelers. And look, I wish the Steelers lose every game. By the way, shout out to the Guardians. You know how the Guardians won last night? That's how I always want the Steelers to lose. And that's sort of factor. By the way, I wish that to all teams here. Blessings to all you guys. And I know you guys wish it to me.
You already did it to the Bengals.
I'm going to say this too real quick, though, because there's going to be some people that like if the Steelers do win, but Russell Wilson plays like doesn't play well, like we saw with Kenny Pickett for 2 years, there's going to be a flock of Steelers fans that are like, well, they won the game. Why would you pull Russ? Well, they just won by 19 and they pulled Justin Fields. So I don't want to hear any of that bullshit. So let me get that out of the way right now.
Oh, that's gonna be your own personal hell, Jared. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because if they win games, but like in spite of Russ, people are gonna make so many excuses.
I watched it for 2 years. I watched it for 2 years with Kenny Pickett, and a bunch of Pitt fanboys that love Kenny Pickett defended him to the ends of the earth.
The local boy.
And it was the most annoying thing on the face of this earth. I cannot stand doing that again. Russ is gonna be better than Kenny Pickett because it would be incredibly difficult to be worse. But
that is hard.
I don't want.
What is the injury that Russ is coming back from?
Calf
injury.
Calf injury. He could re-aggravate.
He had a strain, right?
So he's going to be slow.
Joe Burrow
less
played
explosive
with that injury last year. Joe Burrow played with that injury last year. It's not an easy injury to play with.
No, I agree. Look, I really what I'm thinking is here that the defense of the Steelers are going to pull up the notch. By the way, talk about somebody that's motivated. Tomlin is probably going to be uber motivated to just beat Rodgers to show everybody the other people is wrong. I think the offensive game plan, that's this Steelers fan, you're going to hate this.
Oh, if you
listen
even more
conservative.
To Arthur Smith's press conference the other day, it's very evident he wants Justin Fields to start. And like I said, a lot of people in that building want him to.
I wouldn't disagree, but my point is, I think the offense will be more conservative. I think the defense will turn up a notch. I think the Steelers squeak by. Now, I had a different take here also. I thought, Giants and Jets, big fronts, they're just sacrificing Russell Wilson to the gods so he can go away gracefully.
I mean, look,
that was my alternative take.
If that's the case, then that is some outside the box evil thinking by Mike Tomlin at that point. But
by the way, this game is like a torment Steelers Twitter game because I remember all the Steelers Twitter stuff. Like, yeah, there's the Davante Adams thing, but I don't think people remember the deep cut. Remember, people were like, "Oh, Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers just have so much respect for each other."
I was driving that bandwagon a couple years ago.
Yeah.
All the photos
and they were going to play together, and now Aaron Rodgers coming to town with Davante Adams, who y'all thought y'all had a chance at. Oh, that's a tough one.
The great thing is, it's at night. It's Sunday night for everybody to watch.
Yeah,
so
everybody's going to see it.
This could have been me bowl.
Jamar Sanders here. Shout out to you, man. Thank you for the donation. Justin picked Steelers to learn a year. He knew he wasn't gonna play, and now that Russ is
he didn't
healthy,
pick the Steelers. He got
the
traded.
Same plan. Justin is on board. I'm mad though.
Now look, I'll address that real quick. The Bears basically let him pick where he wanted to be traded.
Okay.
So he chose to come to Pittsburgh. He came here knowing that it was going to be a quote unquote competition, and in 6 games he's played well. So now the answer that he gave to the media the other day, I mean, that was as consummate of a professional as you can be. So shout out to him for that. But
I feel bad for the guy. I'm not
gonna
lie.
He looked like he had the boo-boo face on. No, like you know, the wrestling is bad creative, and it's like, he got the boo-boo face on.
Yeah. When you got to go out and cut a bad promo that you didn't write, and you're like, I gotta sell this thing. It's not gonna be good. So, but man, he played well through 6 games.
In AEW.
He's played well through 6 games, and I'll leave it at this because I know I've kind of ranted on about this, so I apologize. But he currently has a greater EPA per play than Patrick Mahomes, a higher success rate than CJ Stroud. He has more rushing touchdowns than Saquon Barkley, and a higher CPOE than Josh Allen, and they're pulling him. And I'm going to keep circling back to that. If Russell Wilson doesn't play well, and you got this guy on the sideline who's played good football, it's just a dumb decision.
Hey, he has all those, and this week he'll have a higher bench to ass rate than Deshaun Watson somehow. It's crazy.
Oh man. The cameras are gonna be pointing at.
By the way, I'm trademarking that one.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, you're right, Sonny. Though, if Russ gets sacked, Russ is gonna take like a horrible sack or throw the worst interception you've seen in your life. It's just gonna cut to Justin Fields standing there on the sideline. Wonder if I'm gonna get in this game.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now let's pivot here. Oh, by the way, hold on. Let me see the fan vote. What do you think the fan vote is?
Oh, yeah, Steelers. It's going to be like Jets 60-40. And that's if we get a good showing from Pittsburgh.
It was early. It was almost 55-45, but then the Jets took a 65-35.
Wow.
Jets. Okay. Ravens. Playing a team that I think most of us, I don't know about you, Ace, because I know you're in Florida, so you might get the hype from the Tampa people. But most people don't even realize how good Tampa's playing. Beat the Commanders, beat the Lions. Lost to the Broncos. That was surprising.
I don't know how he got away with it. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, look at that.
Lovely.
My XL chain. I don't know how he avoided the case.
Put a 50 burger last week. Beat the Eagles. The Eagles.
That was the stupidest game I've ever watched last week, by the way. The Buccaneers and the Saints. What the hell was that?
Yeah, that game was drunk.
Oh, and then the Saints were like, hey, bro, you thought that was dumb? Watch our offense on Thursday.
On Thursday night.
Let's just call a timeout with 4 seconds in the half before we take a knee to take it to halftime anyway.
I saw Kyron, who also was like a beat reporter for the Birmingham Stallions, tweet out, I legit think they got better skill players than the Saints.
The sad thing with the Saints is they are in negative cap next year. So saying that, this is a team similar a quarterback that we all know in this division, Baker. Sorry, Q. We need to address the Baker show. Playing really good. Playing
different timeline, Sonny. You could have had him. You could have had him.
We never wanted him. We never wanted. Had to Tony put that in. I remember that.
That's a pretty good Photoshop there.
Yeah.
Hey, the Raven fans know how to Photoshop. That's the one thing Baltimore got down pat. They done Photoshop so many dudes that didn't end up playing for them, especially at the wide receiver position. Look, the Ravens Photoshop game, it's unmatched. Could have been your Joe Flacco part 2.
Tremendous.
Anyway, this is a game for me. The one thing the Buccaneers are doing good is they're running the ball well. They are now. They had 3 people that can run the ball well. And then Baker's being efficient, and they're killing it on the passing. Although Mike Evans might be out, I read that he's dealing with a soft tissue injury, but Godwin's playing extremely well. And on the defensive side, they had that big boy in the front that I wanted the Ravens to draft, but obviously he went before we got him. Vita Vea, big boy. That defense is good. I won't call them great, but definitely good enough. I'm struggling to figure out this game. It's a Monday night. It's on the road for us. The question for me is, can they stop the run? I don't know if they can. I remember watching the Saints game. It was hard to watch. Like you guys said, I was trying to watch that game. I'm like, okay, there's nothing I can gain for this game. But against the Atlanta Falcons, a game that they lost was the game previous to that. It's a game that you're watching that game and you're like, okay, pressure. When you hit pressure to Baker, then Baker looks like similar to Baker before. Baker's not the tallest guy or the high stature guy too. Our D-line is very big. This is a game that the D-line needs to show up on defense. If the D-line is coming, which our D-line has been, this is not like off the cuff. Our D-line has been showing up, but the D-line is coming here, putting pressure to the front, right? It's going to be tough for Baker. And after that, if you can make Baker throw the ball quick, it's going to be tough for Baker. And on offense, if you control the time of possession just running the ball, right? To be honest, right now, it's just it's hard for me to see how the Ravens are playing, what defense can stop them. The Bengals did a good job against the run. I understand that we ended up putting 100+. But even though they did a good job, even Commanders did a decent job. But then we were just throwing darts on the passing game, right? So like at this point, the Ravens are pick your poison on offense. Baker and the Buccaneers need to be almost perfect. That's what I'm saying on offense to beat this Ravens team. I don't know if they can. I like what the Buccaneers are doing. I look, for me, I was a team that I wasn't really having on my radar. And this week when I started watching these games to prepare for the show and just to see how they were playing, I was like, damn, the Buccaneers are playing good ball. I watched that Lions game. I'm like, damn, that defense controlled that game. But I think the Ravens come and they control the game, and that's important. You need to control the game. Obviously, turnovers. I think you're gonna force Baker to at least throw 1 pick in this game, which again, Baker has been very efficient this year. I think he leads the league in touchdown passes. But I think even though he leads, and I think he will still throw a couple of touchdown passes into this game, the Ravens will control the offense. They control the game. Baker will have the turnover. I had this game. Again, I don't like these type of games that they're high-scoring games. I have this game 30-23 Ravens. Jarrett.
Yeah, the thing with Tampa defensively that worries me is like last week, the Ravens faced Washington, who is 26th in terms of defensive EPA per rush. The Buccaneers are 25th. So I think it's going to be a very similar strategy for the Ravens when it comes to running the ball. And we've seen Tampa be a little bit inconsistent in the pass game as well. I mean, they allowed Kirk Cousins to throw for 500 yards, and that led to them kind of choking a game away on Thursday night. So if you're able to, establish a good ground game, then that'll open up opportunities in the pass game. Zay Flowers is coming off a big game against Washington. He had 9 catches. And Lamar had a nice game, I think, 20 of 26 for 312. So big game for Lamar as well. And we'll see if he can build off of that going to Tampa, that might, give Tampa a little bit. The game's in Tampa, right? I'm not mistaken.
It is. It's an emotional game coming off what happened.
Yeah.
Ago.
Hey,
Absolutely.
Bro, keep Lamar away from any of the buffets because every time he go to Florida, he come back missing 3 practices because he had food poisoning.
He definitely needs to eat better over there.
Good luck.
So
When them eat better in Tampa.
I'm gonna pick Baltimore to win, but I do think that it will be within like a score, maybe like an 8-point game where like Tampa has the ball late with like a minute left. It's like 30-22 or something, and there's a chance for them to get down the field and tie the game, but Baltimore will hold. So we'll take Baltimore to be 5-2 by the end of the week and remain at least for a tie of the AFC North. And then if Pittsburgh loses, they'll be the outright leaders.
So you're picking them to cover. I like it.
What's the spread?
Last I checked was like 5.5.
5.5. Okay, yeah, that's. I think that's probably good. Again, I think that it'll be within a score, but
it was less than that. Sorry, that was a different game that I was looking. The 5.5 was the Bengals Browns because I was thinking of.
Yeah.
The Bengals 5.5 on us.
They have minus 5.5. The Bengals last I checked.
This is crazy to me.
Minus 2.5 last time I checked. Minus 2.5. Sorry.
Yeah, I would take Baltimore to win and cover 2.5.
Yeah.
Okay. Q.
Yeah, the key to this one, right, is what kind of Baker Mayfield performance can you get out of him? Look, I've watched a lot of Baker Mayfield tape in my life, and I know that there are things that he does well. If you protect him, he's in rhythm. He's able to kind of do his thing. He could be a plus level passer. He can get the ball to guys. He can get in rhythm, and then once he gets into a rhythm, he can start doing that plus level stuff that you see out of him. But if you kind of disrupt that rhythm, or it's the weirdest thing with Baker Mayfield, if you give him like a lot of time to process back there, he will make a mistake a lot of the times, right? Like he will sit back there and kind of like try to hit a bigger window because he has the time. Like it's a perfect mix there that you want to work with. Baltimore's always been good at figuring out those tendencies with Baker. Baltimore also does a good job getting pressure, right? So I think that they will be able to kind of limit Baker's impact there. The question is like, are their corners going to hold up? Is Nate Wiggins playing this week?
Nate Wiggins should be there. Yep.
Nate Wiggins, and then Hump's playing, right?
Hump and Stevens. All three.
Yeah, so we'll see there. I mean, like, I don't know which Hump's gonna show up this week against Mike Evans. So it's just gonna be
Mike Evans might not play though.
Might not play. Okay.
Godwin is. Evans is dealing with a soft tissue injury.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think Baltimore, they're going to be able to do what they want to on offense. I don't think they're going to put up 1 million points here, but they're going to be able to do what they want to fairly uninvaded here. I think this just comes back to who's the better team. I think Tampa Bay is a good team in the NFC and a team that can beat a lot of different opponents. I don't think Baltimore's of the class where they're going to get a win here. So I think we're going to have Baltimore win this one out.
Yeah, quick update on Evans. He didn't practice Thursday or Friday, but it looks like they believe that there's a decent.
It's a game time. It's a game time decision. Probably.
So they feel a little bit optimistic. Probably just holding him out for a precaution, if I had to guess. But my guess is that he plays.
Okay, Ace.
Yeah, Mike Evans always plays through injuries. I don't know if you guys have ever had him in fantasy. Like
Mike Evans plays through Johnny Manziel.
I messed around and put him on the bench one time, and he ended up playing. So I think Mike Evans, if he can go, he's going to play in this game. I think I'm with Sonny on it's kind of hard to put a finger on this game, right? Because these teams are both very good offensively, and then they're also like very good defensively as well. But they have moments where they kind of have lapses. You talk about Baltimore against the Bengals, they give up 41. Jared kind of brought up against the Falcons, Bucs have given up 500 yards in that game. So it's kind of hard to determine how this one goes. The way that I look at it is I just had to see Baker Mayfield's record versus the Ravens. He's 3-6 versus the Ravens. So that's not going in his favor. Obviously, this isn't likely the same Ravens defenses that he's seen in the past, but we have seen them start to kind of tighten that up. And we saw it last week against the Commanders. And so the way that I'm looking at this one, I think this is going to be the game that we thought we were getting last week, right? We thought that the Commanders and the Ravens were going to put up points and stuff like that. I think you're going to see that in this game from both sides of the ball. Now, can the Bucs slow down Baltimore? I'm not so sure. I think I could see Baltimore slowing them down. However, Chris Godwin is having a crazy year this season, and Mike Evans is Mike Evans. Like Mike Evans has gotten 1,000 yards receiving in his sleep every season. So when you deal with those two guys, I just wonder if that Baltimore defense, the passing defense in particular, can really hold those guys and keep them there. I do think Baltimore is going to be able to run the ball. The other thing that's interesting about this game is these two teams are the top two teams in explosive play percentage in the NFL. Baltimore is number 1 at 14. Tampa Bay is number 2 at 14 as well, just a shade under. I think it's like 13.7 if you round it up. It's 14. So I see these two teams just going back and forth. However, I think that Baltimore, for some reason, I just can't see the Bucs beating Baltimore right now. Like the Bucs seem like they could be a good team, but I don't know, dog. Like they might not be real. They're one of those teams that you look at and it's like it looks good, but I just don't know. Once they play like a team like Baltimore, if I can really count on them doing their thing. I do think that what Baker is doing is amazing. He does lead the league in touchdowns right now, and I don't know if Baker's really going to turn the ball over like that. Like I get it. We know that he's had a 3 interception game, but outside of that, he's only thrown 5 interceptions. So that game I'm looking at as an outlier in comparison to what he's done before that. And if he didn't have that game, we're probably talking about Baker Mayfield as an MVP candidate at this point because he's got a 70% completion percentage. He's leading the NFL in that. What's up?
I just hearing Baker Mayfield and hearing 3 interception game outliers just something I'm never gonna have my brain be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like
I feel like if the 3 of us just like symbolically touched this, it'll be good luck for the Buccaneers to get the win.
I think Baker's been playing well. I think Baker's been playing well, bro. I think this might be his best season of his career.
I can't ever be surprised that he throws 3 interceptions in a game. I've watched him do it like 9.
No, I'm not saying I'm surprised. I'm just saying it's been an outlier in comparison to like the rest of the season. Like he's had like 1 interception games, but I don't know if I could just say that he's gonna have another like multiple pick game in this game against the defense that still statistically, even though they just played the Commanders, which was at home, on the road, they're the worst pass defense in the NFL, 31st. So I think Baker's going to be able to make some plays, but I mean, if he throws multiple interceptions, sure, but I just don't think he's the same Baker that we've seen at times when we talk about like 2021 Baker. Like I think he's closer to 2020 Baker than he is 2021
I convince
Baker.
myself that this dude has changed though. Like it always like comes back and he's like, nah, he's gonna throw a punch.
He has hurt you multiple times.
Yeah. So like, look, this is a fairly personal one for me where I'm like, I just don't trust it. Right. I've seen this man lose a game where Lamar Jackson threw 4 interceptions. Like I can't.
Oh, I forgot about that game.
Yeah. I just can't trust this dude versus the Baltimore Ravens. Maybe somebody else is, and God bless him, because you haven't had to see what I've seen with him in the Mika Fitzpatrick. Like now I'm getting just these flashbacks of him not seeing cover one. Anyways, yeah, I don't know who Baker is at this point. If like the no interception stuff is the new normal for Baker Mayfield. Like I assume that like he's always going to be somebody who's going to be willing to throw some interceptions. Like that's just kind of how Baker has always played throughout his whole career, going back to Oklahoma, Cleveland, and Tampa Bay. Like he's going to put the ball up, and he doesn't have like a low amount of turnover worthy plays here. So like that's just kind of how Baker plays. Whether Baltimore capitalizes it or not, I don't think that's going to be what makes or breaks the game. I think this is going to be more about Baltimore's ability to run the ball and how highly can Lamar Jackson execute versus Tampa Bay defense that gave up 30 points to what looks like one of the worst offenses in the NFL last week to the New Orleans Saints. So that's my main concern going into this. I think Baker will be fine in this one, right? I think he'll probably put up a decent number, maybe 1 interception in this game, but I don't think that's going to be what has to define it for Tampa Bay to win or lose this game. I think it's going to be more or less.
I think they need Baker Mayfield in this game for sure. I don't think that they win this game without Baker Mayfield.
Oh no, yeah. I'm saying like if they win, they're going to need a great performance from Baker Mayfield. I'm just saying like I don't think that makes or break the game for Baltimore. Like I think this game's going to have to take Baker Mayfield playing great and then Baltimore fucking up, like in order for it to go Tampa Bay's way. Now, maybe you think like if Baker plays great and like Lamar just has like a regular game, they can overcome it. I just don't think Tampa Bay's that good of a team to where they can just have it be on par with Baltimore, show up, play to the same level, and then beat Baltimore. I think they need something for Baltimore to break the wrong way. Maybe Derrick Henry fumbles, maybe Lamar Jackson fumbles is much more likely. He does have a fumble issue. But I think this is going to be.
Q. I don't know. It seems like a little bitterness from Baker. I don't know.
You got those.
What would it be better? I'm just telling you how I experienced it, right? Hey, look, you're never going to talk about Andy Dalton the way them people in Carolina talk about him. Like, why? Because you have the experience with Andy Dalton.
You gotta remember
that man. Okay,
you gotta remember. People was calling me a Baker hater when I was calling it like it was about dude back in the day.
Hey, but I gave Baker plenty of his flowers when he played well in Cleveland, but I also had to tell it how it was when he was not playing well in Cleveland. Yeah. And I'm happy that it's working out more for him. But if you're asking me, like, do I trust Baker Mayfield in a situation versus the Baltimore Ravens? I can't ignore how I feel about that.
He's getting those.
That's not something I'm just gonna be like, yeah, man. I trust that he's gonna. I've never seen him like show up the way you need to show up versus the Ravens, except for Monday Night Football during the pandemic. He did show up. Lamar just showed up with diarrhea, and that was a diabolical combination. Lamar Jackson and diarrhea.
Getting those Minka cover one flashbacks.
Oh my God. He threw that damn interception over the middle of the field so many times to Minka Fitzpatrick. And like Minka caught it one time. He's like, wow, I can't believe he threw it again.
Right. But yeah, I'm going to take Baltimore in this one just slightly. I still think it's going to be a high scoring game, though. I think this is
like, bro, Minka's on the line of scrimmage. What you think about the dude? Okay,
what was the score, Ace?
33-30 Ravens.
33-30. Another nail biter. By the way, lines, because I didn't say.
Talk about all these points that Baltimore's giving up.
Well, we'll see. The last game we did not give up a lot to the Commanders, which was the number one scoring offense. Now they're not. The Buccaneers are now the number one scoring offense after that 51 burger.
These teams score points, man. I mean, I've had Chris Godwin on my fantasy team, so them Buccaneer boys score points.
Who is Tampa Bay?
Mike Evans isn't in. If Mike Evans isn't in, then I don't think that they're going to score points at the clip that they've been
they're running the ball well. I think this is also critical for Baltimore to contain that run, right? And they have been good this year, Baltimore, to contain the run. By the way, the line officially -3.5 Baltimore. The line on the Steelers game, Steelers +1.5.
Okay, so Tampa Bay so far has beaten the Commanders, the Lions, and their record's not that they lost by 19 to the Broncos. Beat the Eagles, lost to the Falcons. Yeah, I don't think we know who this team is yet.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm trying to figure out this team.
Yeah. I think they win. I think they win the NFC South, though, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Well, I mean, the Falcons aren't terrible.
Yeah, I mean, the Falcons are like the only other competition right now.
Oh, the Falcons beat them. And the Falcons beat them. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it's just like is Kirk going to do something at the end of the year? Like, is this going to come down to like a Kirk Cousins possession in the fourth quarter? And like, it's just such a crapshoot on which one you're going to get. Because sometimes he's amazing in the fourth quarter if it's not the playoffs.
It was amazing in the fourth quarter against Tampa a couple of times ago.
Yeah, it's like unbelievable. Like, we were like, wow, Kirk Cousins could do this. And then people bring up all the stats about how Kirk Cousins is like the greatest fourth quarter comeback quarterback in regular season history. And then he does shit like throw a screen on 4th and 25 in the playoffs. And you're like, oh, man. Like,
that guy against the Giants.
You see now that the Falcons are a pretty decent team. Now that we're weeks removed away from the Steelers one, they are a pretty decent team.
Okay, and the fan vote here was 70-30 Ravens. Okay.
Oh, wow.
That's about right.
Oh, wait,
that was worse than the Steelers one.
Yeah, Steelers was 65-35. Grip Flow here says Browns being anti-AFC North by building a dome.
We did 80 years on that lake, frigid and cold. Yeah, we got a dome. We're going to be warm, and you're not. go fuck yourself. Hey, if we're gonna be miserable watching this goddamn team, we're gonna do it in style. Okay, so yeah, who cares how we get it done? We're in the dome. Y'all mad because y'all not in the dome. It's gonna be nice. We're gonna get WrestleMania, and you're gonna get SummerSlam. Fuck yourself. Okay. Yeah.
They move away from Cleveland, correct? From downtown?
Yeah, they went to Brook Park. They're right next to the airport. You fly to Cleveland, you're bam, right there at the stadium.
That's good to know.
That's fine.
Scratch to win 28 says, well, the Browns scored 28 for the first.
Hey, man, Nick Chubb is the only reason this could happen.
That's exciting.
The question is, can Nick Chubb score like at least 14 points?
Should I bet a Nick Chubb 2-touchdown score?
I don't know, because he's not going to get the snaps like in the red zone, right?
Like pitch count probably.
Yeah, they're probably like, if he gets anything, he's going to get like a bunch of I would do the 10+ yard prop on Nick Chubb. I wouldn't do the touchdown one because they'll just put in Foreman and not risk Nick Chubb's body first day back and throw him into a bunch of piles.
So let's talk about this game, the AFC North matchup of the week. We have two teams here in the bottom, Ace and Q. Now, Jared, I'm gonna start with you. I usually try to start with the non-people that are playing. This is a game that intrigued me because on paper, how the Browns are playing, you would think there's no shot. There's no shot. Bengals should win. But in the past couple of years, we've seen Browns teams that haven't been playing good. For some reason, the Bengals can beat them. I don't know what it is. There's
especially in Cleveland.
Yes. And then second, with Nick Chubb coming, is very important. I think Conklin's also playing. Very important to know.
Conk was back last week. This will be his second week in a row.
Yeah. So it's very important to know that the Bengals, when they were playing to Baltimore, so I didn't check last game, but they were giving more rushing yards to the team that they were playing than what that team averaged when they were not playing the Bengals, right? Now that's pre-BJ Hill, right? So with all that information, what are you thinking in this game?
Yeah, so if my count is correct, the Browns have won the last 6 games against Cincinnati and Cleveland. So that's, something to pay attention to, a streak that could get broken. And look, we've talked a lot about the shortcomings of the Browns on the show, obviously, and it's just one of those things, man, where I feel like we can keep talking about it over and over again, but if they don't make a change, then we're just going to be kind of repeating ourselves. So I think that Jameis Winston wins that game against the Eagles this past week. I think they just if they had a quarterback that could just be slightly competent, then they could get a few more wins. But, Kevin Stefanski doubled down this week saying, if he gives us the best chance to win, we're going to keep playing Deshaun Watson. I was like, all right, man, this is what you're signing up for. I wrote about it on the Sporting News yesterday because, we've talked about it a lot on this show, saying maybe they just need to stage a mutiny. And I think that that's kind of what they need to do at this point. Like if you're one of like the stars on this team, man, if you're Myles Garrett, if you're one of these star linemen, if you're whoever, like I'm going to Jimmy Haslam, Andrew Berry, and Kevin Stefanski if need be like, dude, I'm not doing this anymore. You either bench him or I'm kind of out. And maybe that's what you need to do if you're Myles Garrett and one of these stars. So I'm leaning Cincinnati just because, yes, I understand the streak of wins in Cleveland over the Bengals. But offensively, I just think that this feels like a race to 20 just because Cleveland hasn't scored 20 this year. And if the Bengals get there, that feels like their finish line, even if it's close, even if it comes down to the wire. The Bengals will take any win, any way that they can get them right now, just so they can claw their way back to 500 and really get back into that playoff picture. So I'm going to take the Bengals for all the reasons that we've discussed on the show throughout the season so far. It's just until the Browns make some sort of actual changes, it's just going to be, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. For me, this is a game that I'm watching what happened last week with the Bengals. Is that Zach Taylor going to be the play calling? Right? Is the Browns front going to be as dominant as the Giants were against the Bengals? O-line. Is the offense of the Bengals not going to put points, which, again, that's what happened last week against New York. Because if that offense comes in to play against Cleveland, then Cleveland has a shot.
especially if Cleveland then controls the game on the ground. On the flip side, if the Bengals offense plays like they play against Baltimore, which Cleveland has had a couple of games like that on defense, they allowed a bunch of points, then it's GG. Definitely, the Bengals just roll. I don't know. This is another weird game. I'm trying to figure out which Bengal teams will show up on offense. On defense, I don't necessarily care that much because I'm assuming they're just gonna say we're gonna stack the box almost like they play against Lamar Jackson, and let's see what Watson wants to do on the air. Right? That's what I'm thinking the Bengals are gonna do. So I'm not expecting. I think this game goes either one or two ways. If Cleveland wins, it's gonna be similar to the score prediction that I gave earlier, 18-15 or some stupid shit like that. If the Bengals win, I think it's going to be like 24-14, 24-12, or it's going to be a wider mark. Cleveland has a less margin of error between the two teams. Again, what play calling is the Bengals going to do? What O-line shows up? On the flip side, this is a game for Cleveland that the defense has to carry this team. What team will show up? Now, if let's say the ball goes first to Cleveland, Nick Chubb gets to carry 10 yards, and then Nick Chubb gets to carry 5 yards, 7 yards. And even if they punt the ball, the defense feels the joy of having Nick Chubb, right? They're vibing. Oh my God, my guy here is moving the ball. Yeah, we did not score, but they were moving the ball. And that can ignite that defense, and the defense comes to ball. Again, that can be a completely different game. But we're talking about things that hasn't happened yet this year. I have to go with the Bengals because of that. But do I see a potential chance here for the Browns to win? I do. Like I said, if Nick Chubb comes and balls early in the game, if somehow Nick Chubb comes and breaks one early, like what my guy here, Henry, did against the Bills, then that defense is vibing. Like, oh my God, yes, we had the king back. Not the king, but we have our guy back, right? Doesn't matter if Deshaun's not going to play here or not going to be super efficient. We have Chubb, and Chubb will give them time of possession to refresh that defense. But anything short than Chubb basically not having to play really, really good, not even breaking one, just really, really good, it's going to be hard for me to pick Cleveland. So for that, I have Bengals. Like I said, it's probably going to be like a 24-15-ish score. I don't know, Ace, Q, who wants to go first?
I'll let Ace go first.
Go, Ace.
Yeah, I mean, I love hearing this stat this week, which is true. You can't argue against fact. Bengals haven't won in Cleveland since 2017. Joe Burrow didn't get to the Bengals until 2020, right? That first game that we had, it was a really good game, actually. I believe it was a primetime game, 35-30. One of the guys, I think it was Myles Garrett, had the sack on him. Came down to the wire in that one. It's a good game. The one that I kind of side-eye when people are just like, oh, we beat you, is kind of that one in 2022 when the Bengals already had like the playoffs ramped up. Brandon Allen played in that game. I'm like, Bengals lost 21-16. They didn't really play their starters.
A couple years. But
I'm like, all right, okay. Halloween game, they kicked our ass. I'm not gonna take it. They kicked our ass that year with the 32-13.
That one in Cleveland, right?
Then we had the one last year, week 1. I mean, I'm not saying that the Bengals would have won, but Joe Burrow's coming off of a calf injury. I'm not sure, but I'm not here to talk about
coming off a calf injury. Outskate the fact that we have Deshaun Watson and you have Joe Burrow.
I mean, he wasn't the same. I mean, if you look,
he was a little bit better.
First couple of games that Joe Burrow played, he wasn't the same player. But that's neither here nor there. Cleveland does have our number. I'm not here to argue that they don't. I just think coming into this game, there's a lot of different circumstances right now, right? Deshaun Watson, although he has been bad, I don't think he was this bad last year when we played him and saw him that first time. I'm still not believing this stuff, though. Everybody's like, oh, worst team in the NFL on offense. And I'm not going for the okie doke. Cleveland is going to come to play against Cincinnati because they always come to play against Cincinnati. Doesn't matter if there's drama going on. We saw that with Baker Mayfield and OBJ. Doesn't matter. They're going to come to play. The thing that the Bengals need to do to win this game is not turn the ball over. That has been one of the biggest factors against Cleveland that has hurt us in the past. We have not won the turnover margin against them. They seem to have a really good matchup for our 3 receivers. They still have that there. However, I wonder if MJ Emerson, who's been struggling this season, is going to continue to play the type of brand of football that he's playing. That's going to be major because T. Higgins hasn't had a 100-yard game yet. If he can have that kind of success against Emerson, with Emerson struggling this year, I think that that's going to help us. Denzel Ward playing in this game or not is going to mean a lot to me. If Denzel Ward is in this game, I think it's tough for the Bengals to win this game. If Denzel Ward is not in this game, I think that helps out the Bengals a little bit on their side. I'm not sold on the defense that they're going to stop Deshaun Watson just based off of things that I've seen this season from the Bengals offense. I mean, I would argue that they almost couldn't really stop. I know what the box score says, but I could argue that they really couldn't stop Daniel Dimes without Malik Neighbors last week in some instances. However, the one thing I think that is going for us is Nick Chubb is just coming back. Now, if this was Nick Chubb 2-3 weeks in, I think I'd be more worried. You're always going to be worried because it's Nick Chubb. But I think the fact that he could be on a pitch count in this game is going to help out the Bengals as well. I just think a lot of the circumstances go their way. The other thing that's the major difference in this game that I think is even bigger than the Myles Garrett one is Cleveland's always had a great offensive line. Like, we've never been able to get to their quarterback. We've never been able to get pressure or get sacks. And the fact that they are horrible this season, you might argue that they might have one of the worst lines in the NFL. Now, obviously, guys have been in and out of the lineup, so that's going to be a factor, and they are getting Wills and some of those guys back. But they are not the same offensive line that they've been for the past couple of years. And I know when a few years ago when I wanted Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase, it's because I watched us play Cleveland, and I just watched our offensive linemen abuse our defensive linemen and abuse the line of scrimmage, and I just haven't seen that from them this year. So with them going against a guy like Trey Hendrickson, even with Jedrick Wills, I think Trey Hendrickson can be a factor in this game. And I think that the thing that's going to keep this game close is Cleveland's defense. Cleveland's offense, I'm just not super sold on. I have to see more of it. But I think that the Bengals can win this game. I think that there's a lot at stake. And then the other thing, I think that's another factor is Cleveland is 0-2 at home, and they hate Deshaun Watson right now. There's like literally a civil war against Deshaun Watson. And I don't think that they're realizing that if Deshaun Watson goes out there and has a 3-and-out or something and you start booing him, you're helping the Bengals. Like, you're not, like, you're pretty much injuring your own team by doing that and taking away the home field advantage that you have. So it's key for the Browns to come out there and get out to a fast start so that they keep the crowd on their side in terms of that. But if there's any kind of play where it turns them against their own team, that's going to favor the Bengals as well. I don't think that the Bengals, like, the spread to me was crazy. So, like, I'm going to keep it a buck. Like, I expected this spread to be way closer than the Giants game. Yeah, there's no way it's going to be like that. To me, it should be 2. It should be Bengals by 2, and that's just because, you always give the home team 3 points anyway when you're playing on the road. But yeah, I don't think that it's going to be one that the Bengals win comfortably like that. It's Cleveland. I think that they get out of there with a victory, but I'm going to say it's going to be 2017 Bengals. I'll take that. Bengals win, get out of Cleveland with a win for the first time in 7 years. This is the year of breaking trends. This has been the year of trends being broken, so I'm hoping that we can break this one.
It's the year of breaking trends, but not for the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals comes out to start the year. We're going to break that trend of that first game. We're gonna win that first game this year. What they do, not only do they not win that first game, they talked about slow starts. We're going to avoid the slow start. Come out and have their slowest start ever under Joe Burrow. So I don't think this might be the year for the Bengals to break trends. Now, look, Nick Chubb coming back is a huge deal for this team. And it's not just that Nick Chubb's going to get 10, or last time he came back from injury, he got 20 carries right away, right? But it's not just that Nick Chubb's coming back to play. It's also the fact of what Nick Chubb represents. You actually have hope on offense now. This team has just looked so hopeless on the offensive side of the ball. This Browns run game was able to get stuff going last week, and I think they've been able to get stuff going throughout the whole bulk of the year. Last week, they decided to not throw the ball as much. They only threw the ball with Deshaun Deshaun Watson 24 times. Here's where I'm at with Deshaun. I think he's capable of getting about 180 yards a game. But if you throw the ball 44 times, he's going to give you 180 yards a game. If you throw the ball 30 times, he's probably going to give you 180 yards a game. Just get the 180 he's going to get in the least amount of passing attempts you have to take to get it there, and then run the ball for the rest, right? I think we're just going to play a very simple screen, easy game for Deshaun, and try to keep the game out of his hands and put the game into the running backs' hands. The Browns have 4 running backs that are probably going to be active in this game. Naheem Hines is also coming back from injury in this game, right? The Browns are getting healthier on the offensive line. Part of the reason their offensive line's been so bad, they were missing their starting tackles to start the year. They were missing their starting guard for a portion of the season, and they're still missing Wyatt Teller, right? Now they're going to get back They have Jed and Jack Conklin back playing their second consecutive game this season for the first time this year. You also are getting back Ethan Posick at center. So now you have 4 of your 5 starters for the first time all season. All of those guys better at run blocking than the guys who were in for them during this time. And I think the Browns are going to be able to run a ball against a Bengals defense that has been at best characterized as up and down versus the run game, especially when we're talking about somebody like Nick Chubb, who's always had success on the ground versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Part of this is like, it's fun to joke about how the Bengals can't do anything about it. So I wonder if the Myles Garrett thing is going to continue with how the Bengals play more 12 personnel. I do think Andre Iosivas is somebody to watch because I'm not as concerned about T. Higgins matchup with Martin Emerson or Greg Newsome, but I am concerned about like Iosivas getting in there and running Greg Newsome horizontal. Greg Newsome cannot run left to right to save his life. Same thing can be said with Martin Emerson running north and south. He's not good going north and south, right? So Iosivas is the guy that I'm like, hey, if he ends up on one of these guys, which is very likely, there's a good chance he's going to pop open for a big play in this one. So I wonder how the Browns are going to kind of worry about that problem with the Iosivas. I think getting back Juan Thornhill this week is also very important. The Browns are only going to be missing 2 players, Jerome Ford and Ronnie Hickman. Both of those players, best week for them to miss because their starters are coming back this week. I think the Browns are going to be able to run the game. I think they're going to get probably their one weird result of the year. And I think they're going to have, like, I feel the opposite about this game than I felt about the Raiders game. So I think the Browns are going to put together probably their best offensive output of the year. If they get over 20 at any place at any point in time this season, it'll be this game where they have the extra energy of Nick Chubb. And Ace pointed out that the fan base hates Deshaun Watson, but that's it. The fan base just hates Deshaun Watson, right? It's not a civil war. Everybody just hates him. It's not going to be a situation to where everybody thinks that they're getting booed and they're going to play less hard because they think the fans are booing them. They know who they're booing. They're booing Deshaun Watson. It's going to be like John Cena in Chicago. Like, let's go Chubb. Watson still sucks, right? Like, the Browns could be blowing out the Cincinnati Bengals, and they will pop out a Watson still sucks chant. And if that makes Watson less capable at quarterback, I'd love to see it because I haven't seen a less capable quarterback play football than Deshaun Watson in 2020.
That will be hard to see.
So, yeah, what's going to do? Make him worse? Like it's not something I'm too concerned about. And you know, if Watson wants to do something about it, I mean, this is a guy who talks about being a back against the wall player or all time. He put himself top 5 all time, all athletes in the fourth quarter, right? Pressure time. Okay, Mr. Michael Jordan, show the fuck up, right? When they're booing you this week, if you really think you're like that. So, you know, Nick Chubb's going to go in there. We're going to be excited for Nick Chubb. You get the ball to Nick Chubb, crowd's going to go crazy. You run the ball, the crowd's going to go crazy. You drop back the pass, you get an incompletion, they're going to boo the fuck out of you. It's going to be obvious who this ire is drawn out at. And it's going to be more amusing than I think demoralizing at that point, because that is just like something we've never seen before. But I think it's absolutely guaranteed to happen. But yeah, I think if there's a week the Browns offense gets over 20, this is the week they're going to have all this extra energy from Nick Chubb coming up. You're going to get that boost you get when you like trade somebody, but now other people are stepping up. So you're going to get probably like a good game from some random wide receiver that we're going to get overly excited about for like 3 weeks and then eventually give up on by the end of the season. My bet's that guy's going to be Cedric Tillman. But you know, the Browns' issues are probably going to pull up later down the line when it matters that Jerry Jeudy's the only wide receiver you have to trust to run the route, right? When it matters that you're really kind of keying in on just your tight end and your running back to get yards. But like, I think this is a sweet spot for the Bengals to get got here because the Bengals like to play down the competition. There's no team that you're going to play down to like the Cleveland Browns right now. And I think they're going to go in there kind of like, oh, yeah, when Nick Chubb's coming back, it's going to be a pitch count. It's not going to be the same. They're going to stink on offense, and like the Browns are going to get them with like a quick sucker punch because that's kind of how the Browns, especially in this latest iteration of them, have been able to do. Also, you got to factor in like this team's going to have that irrational confidence about playing the Bengals because like it has happened before, right? The Odell trade, well, not even trade. I believe we released Odell Beckham, right? And then like the game after that, you beat them. These guys remember that. These are the same guys in the locker room. You know how it is. Like this happened with Pittsburgh for so long, even when they weren't technically better than the Browns, like in what, 2023? I don't know. There's not a lot of years where the Browns were like better than the Steelers, but when they were like on equal footing, it's like it's so hard to beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh because everybody in that locker room believes that you could beat the Browns in Pittsburgh no matter how good they are when they walk in there. This is a Browns team that was struggling in 2021, had Baker Mayfield out there putting up historic lows and somehow beat the Bengals team by like multiple touchdowns that went to the Super Bowl that year. They know that this could be an irrational week. They have a belief that they can do it this week. We'll see what happens the weeks after that. But if there's a week where they're going to get a surprise dub, this smells like it.
Deshaun Watson's like a learning tree Chris Jericho at this point.
That's the only thing because like I don't know if this shit like counts with like Deshaun in there. If we talking about Jameis, I got my chest out. I'm telling you right now, we're beating the Bengals if Jameis was the starting quarterback. But like Deshaun like kind of takes away all that shit that we be usually relying on because he's also the only one to ever lose to Joe Burrow.
I will say this: if the Bengals go out there and beat the Browns, I think you either see Deshaun benched or Kevin Stefanski fired. I think one or the two happen.
Nah, it's not the thing, man. I don't think either of them. We don't make any changes unless we lose to Pittsburgh. That's the thing. Like we lose to Pittsburgh home on a Thursday night. Yeah, that gets you fired. That gets guys benched. But like that's we only make changes.
But you guys usually sometimes lose to Pittsburgh. When you lose to somebody that you're not used to losing to, that's when it's like, all right, yeah, something needs to change.
Yeah, Ace, again, you're looking at this logical. I'm just looking at this through the lens of Jimmy Haslam. It only matters when he loses to Pittsburgh. Like he's gonna like he only makes changes when Pittsburgh like loses. Well, when Pittsburgh beats him and then he's all angry.
Because he was a Steelers fan, right?
Yeah, he used to own the Steelers. Well, he used to be a minority owner of the Steelers, right? And then that's how he got elevated to being there. I can't. I'm just telling you how Jimmy works. He's only gonna fire you if you fail versus the Steelers.
When's the Browns bye week?
Week 10.
Okay.
Oh, 3 weeks. Now, Q, you were talking something, and with this, I'm gonna go with the super chats. Oddly enough, the Ravens, you can argue. Actually, I don't think you can argue. I think it's factual. Second best wide receiving room in the division. This is a weird position for me. Yeah, I don't know what to do with myself.
You know, usually when we do these rankings, we're like, hey, being 4 is not a bad place to be because all of these teams are good. Nah, being 2.
I'll take it. I don't care. I've been 4 so long. I don't care.
It's like, wow. It's gotten that bad with both the Steelers and the Browns that the wide receiving group for the Ravens is arguably better. And I still think arguably better because, like, I don't know. I might take George Pickens and Van Jefferson, even with George Pickens, like, dude, over, like, Zay Flowers and Nelson Aguilar.
No, Bateman's been playing great.
Bateman? Oh, yeah. You see, you just said Bateman with pride, which tells me everything I need to know.
Bateman has been playing really good this year.
Bateman with the chest out.
He's like, Rashad Bateman. We got Rashad Bateman, baby.
Rashad has been great. Anyway, let me go with the super chats here. Q, just so you said the Browns winning, right?
Yes.
Okay. Soul Train here says if Browns win, they really do own them at home.
For sure. You lose to this Browns team, you can't say nothing.
Mm-hmm. Darth Vader.
Hey, man, if the Browns win this game and score 30, you got to fire Lou Anarumu that day. You know that, right? Like, he's got to go. Like, if that happens.
Is that more of a like coordinator problem, or is it more of just a personnel problem? I feel like it's just more of like the lack of talent on defense.
Yeah, we don't. The personnel isn't good, but yeah, if Lou gets cooked by Deshaun, that's gonna be nasty.
Hey, bro, 31 defensive coordinators are gonna hold the Browns under 20 when Deshaun Watson starting at the quarterback.
Can you imagine Deshaun comes to this game and throws for 3 touchdowns?
Oh, he looks like old Deshaun from that'd me off too, because
that's how you can get Browns fans back on this side, bro.
No, he's not. One game ain't gonna do it.
I don't know. They might get hope. Q.
We've been here, dog. It's one game ain't gonna do it, dog. They're sick. It's like it will take him the rest of the season, and if like the Browns don't make like a conference championship game with them doing it, we're like, yeah, we could just walk away from this now, right? Like they're done. Like nobody believes in it. So let's be real. You don't put up a good rest of the season when you drop a game like the fucking Washington one. Like that's just not something a good quarterback does in the course of their season ever.
Darth Vader here says, I find your lack of faith in Watson disturbing.
We found another Deshaun Watson burner.
No, I think it's probably a joke because he's Darth Vader, right? So he's like literally on the side of evil in Star Trek. I mean, Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Yeah. So like, maybe that's what he's saying, that I haven't come to the dark side yet on this one. But yeah, man.
Now Derek here says, terrified of this game, and I hate that. Who they?
That's how you know when somebody's got your number. There's no good reason the Browns should like make you nervous in this game. The only thing that is hey, Miles is playing and Nick Chubb's playing, and those are the two principal characters in every single Browns win over the Bengals that's ever mattered since 2020.
I mean, you could be a Steelers fan and just be horrified of every game because
like he said, who they?
Oh, I know. I'm just saying. I'm just from my perspective, I'm horrified of every game. Because for the most part, it's always 1-score games. Last week was an anomaly.
Look at me in the eye. You worried about Browns at Steelers? You worried about Browns at Steelers?
Wait, what?
Russell Wilson, that's what I think
he might be.
Yeah, with Russell Wilson, maybe. Yeah.
With Russell Wilson, I don't think they've lost that game in your life.
Browns at Steelers?
Yeah. Other than the
playoffs game, yeah. Has Cleveland won in Pittsburgh? I'll have to look.
I think they did it once, and I think Gardocki was still our punter.
Gardocki eventually became the Steelers punter, so that was like at least before 04. Before 04,
that was like I think Tim Couch did it.
What do you guys think is the fan vote right now? What do you guys think?
It's got to be 60-40 Bengals.
I was going to say the same thing.
How are you, Ace? What do you think?
I think it's like 57-43 Bengals.
Okay.
It was 50-50 until now that it's 51-49 Bengals.
Wow.
So it was in 2003.
Last time we did. Yeah, and that was when it was old Three Rivers, right? We haven't done it at Heinz.
No, Heinz opened in 01. So it was
okay, so we've won. Yeah. One never did it versus Big Ben in the regular season. Now, famously, did make them cry in the postseason.
Now let's see. They won. They won in Cleveland in this span. 1, 2, 3.
We don't need to count on that. Why do we need to count on that? 8. Look, count the playoff wins that Ben has over Cleveland. I believe he's never beaten the Browns in the playoffs when it matters. So
Well, hey, bro. to be fair, he never had to except that one time. And then
we ain't got to talk about that. We need to talk about the end result here.
Last super chat before we close the stream. Question for Q&As. Why do you guys think this dark cloud over Ohio football right now?
I mean, the team ain't that good. The Bengals defense ain't good. The Browns have a bad quarterback, and Ohio State has a shitty coach who doesn't know there's 6 seconds left on the clock. I mean, this isn't bad luck. This isn't a dark cloud. These are user errors that we are seeing every time we on it. The Bengals aren't magically giving up 200 rushing yards a game. The Ohio State didn't magically forget that shit happened. Like, the Browns don't magically have bad quarterback play. Like, this isn't a dark cloud making bad things happen to the Browns or anybody else. This is just bad decisions, not making the right signings in free agency, and also hanging on to a coach who's not that good, right? And then trying to supplement it by hiring Chip Kelly in 2024. This is what happens. Bad results, in Ohio State, probably the best chance possible because at least they get to play in the playoff, right? Or at least get to play in the Big Ten championship if they can win enough games back. But like, this isn't a dark cloud hanging over Cleveland. It's just bad players creating bad results. That's what it is. It's not mystical.
Ohio State will still be Penn State thothough, so
they always beat Penn State. That's what Penn State's there for, right? I think I've talked about it. Like
as a Penn State fan, I'm aware.
Penn State's the intercontinental champion, right? Like they're the dude that you need a strong beat. Like, okay, all right, Ohio State needs to get back in the top 5. Good. How do we do that? Let's fight the intercontinental champion in a non-title match right here. Win clean.
That's good. That's very good.
Ace, you have any thoughts on that?
They're like the perpetual cane.
I mean, I don't know. Like if we can win this game, man, we can get back to trying to get on the road. So I mean, it is a dark cloud, I guess, for the early part of the season. We'll see how it goes.
I still sustain. The more that I look at the AFC standing, the more that I think the Bengals probably will finish 5th or 6th.
Yeah, the NFL is weird this year.
It is super weird, and I think
that's normal as the Chiefs still leading the AFC. Everything else, is
and I think what's gonna happen is you're gonna have 3 or 4 teams that the teams that win the division are gonna have a way better record than the other ones. Doesn't mean that the 5th, 6th, and 7th team are that much worse, but it's because that so many teams have started slow this year.
Yeah.
Anyway,
if the Jets don't turn it around, we could just throw the whole AFC East away outside of the Bills, like the rest 2 through 4.
The Bills came really close to like making you wonder if you're gonna have to throw them away. It's like I always make this joke about the Bills, like right when you're like, yeah, Josh Allen's gonna win MVP. The Bills are gonna be the 1 seed this year. This is the Bills' year. They always just like instinctively go, oh shit, people think we're too good right now. Let's just lose a couple games we shouldn't lose. And then
there's like 4 teams in the AFC that like we can bank on kind of make the playoffs. It'll be the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, Texans. Everything else is just a shit show, crapshoot.
Yeah, I think Pat might get
Broncos at 4-3 right now. I'm not believing that.
I don't care, bro. I don't.
I'm not believing it. I'm not believing it.
I watched Bo Nix throw it in between 2 wide open receivers last night. I don't care about the Broncos.
Yeah, that's gonna come back, right? Like
that defense playing nicely though.
Yeah,
the Saints are the weirdest team because they come out and like put up 80 in like 2 games and just haven't won a game since then.
Yes. Okay, that's gonna do it for us. We're coming back here Wednesday, recapping all the Battle of Ohio, who's winning, Steelers and Ravens. If they won their respective matches, is the Steelers first, as the Ravens still first, or tied? We'll see. Until then, we'll see you next time. Peace out.